In this Fextralife video, we're going to be talking about Fellowship, a game we actually touched on before that we had access to in the early alpha build back in August of 2024. If you caught that video, you might remember that we came away pretty intrigued by what the developers were trying to do. But for anyone new, Fellowship is what the developers are calling a multiplayer online dungeon adventure, or MODA for short, and is being developed by Chief Rebel, a brand new studio made up of some pretty seasoned veterans. We're talking people who've worked on titles like World of Warcraft, Diablo 4, Helldivers 2, and the Battlefield series, just to name a few. In this video, we're going to break down what Fellowship actually is, how it plays, what kind of mechanics and heroes it features, and why we think it could resonate with certain audiences. This is particularly true for hardcore World of Warcraft fans and maybe even players who enjoy roguelike or co-op dungeon crawls that throw a steady stream of challenges at you. Also, stay tuned for the end of the video where we have an exclusive never-before-seen boss reveal. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the obvious question: what is Fellowship? Fellowship is a 4-player cooperative dungeon crawler, and the concept is pretty straightforward. You and 3 other people jump into a dungeon together, each taking on a role of a pre-designed hero. Every hero comes with their own unique abilities, weapons, and gear. The game leans hard into the Holy Trinity, the classic tank, healer, DPS role structure, something MMO fans will instantly recognize. This setup puts a real emphasis on team-based strategy, coordination, and skill execution. Player progression is tied to each hero, so as you play a hero, you unlock more and more for that hero and become stronger with that hero permanently. Each match begins at the entrance to a dungeon you queue into, and from there your group works through progressively tougher areas, clearing mobs, tackling elite enemies, and eventually facing off against one or more bosses depending on the size and difficulty of that dungeon. At higher levels, these dungeons are timed and you must beat the final boss and clear enough enemies within the time limit to unlock higher level difficulties, similar to how Mythic Plus works in World of Warcraft. Fellowship takes out the leveling up process you see in most MMOs and takes players directly into the fun endgame content, a refreshing change to the grind many players no longer have time for. You can think of this in the way similar to how MOBAs evolved out of RTS games. Fellowship feels like the next iteration. If MOBAs were the streamlined version of a large-scale strategy game, Fellowship is aiming to be the streamlined version of MMO dungeon content. This approach has a lot of appeal. Instead of spending dozens of hours gearing up for a dungeon, finding a group, and hoping for a decent run, Fellowship drops you right into the action from the very first session. There is no long leveling process or raid prep required. You're in, you're fighting, and you're earning tokens for gear and sometimes specific gear and ranked play immediately. From a lifestyle and accessibility standpoint, this is a big deal. Players who used to love MMOs but don't have the same free time anymore, maybe because of work or family or other responsibilities, can still enjoy the dungeon crawling experience in bite-sized sessions. Another feature that helps with this and shows respect for the player's time is the mount system. Mounts can be earned through normal play or by completing specific tasks, and can be used to rush through instances quickly, cutting down on travel time and allowing further optimization of runs. Hardcore MMO fans are still going to get that cooperative challenge they crave, but this format opens the door for a lot of players who might have given up on the genre due to time constraints. Fellowship is a premium title. You buy it once and that's it, with no subscription model or mandatory online passes. The developers have said there will be optional cosmetic-only microtransactions. These will not impact gameplay or progression. They've also emphasized that they will be open with the player base about how the system evolves at launch, which is refreshing to hear given how cautious players have been around monetization lately. Chief Rebel also seems genuinely interested in community feedback on post-launch content, which could set the tone for a healthier relationship between developers and players. Let's dive into what really makes Fellowship stand out: its gameplay systems. The core idea is streamlined dungeon running with endless replayability thanks to scaling difficulty and modifiers that keep things interesting. Players can choose between 2 primary modes, Quick Play and Ranked. Quick Play is exactly what it sounds like: shorter, more casual runs that could take around 10 to 15 minutes to complete. It's a great way to jump in, knock out a dungeon, and collect some loot without committing to a long session. Ranked, on the other hand, is where things get more competitive and challenging. These runs allow you to scale the dungeon difficulty to your liking, randomly encountering modifiers called curses and ascensions that change how the runs feel. Depending on the difficulty tier, a random selection of curses and ascensions is displayed when a group forms. Players will also be presented with 3 possible dungeons for their run, and they can vote for which one to do. For example, you might encounter a curse that causes ice damage to affect both you and your enemies. Suddenly, positioning, timing, and party composition matter a lot more. You might also see higher level enemies gain new abilities or patterns that completely shift how you approach combat. Access to higher difficulties requires 2 things: a higher item level earned by equipping stronger gear, and higher dungeon scores achieved by challenging and completing instances within a certain time on various difficulty levels. Between runs, players will spend time in the central hub area, a town that contains all the shops, crafting, and upgrading stalls and benches that a player might need. Training dummies are available to practice rotations, and a general rule of thumb is to visit the various stalls and characters here during downtime to improve your hero. Overall, this gameplay system really channels the late-game dungeon energy from MMOs like World of Warcraft, but makes it the centerpiece rather than the end goal. As of the early access launch, which starts tomorrow, October 16th, there are 9 classes available, with more planned for the future. Each hero is pre-made. You don't create a blank slate character from scratch, instead you pick from a roster of designed heroes, each with distinct playstyles tied to one of the classic Holy Trinity archetypes, tank, DPS, or healer. This is not limiting, on the contrary, it creates opportunities for better balance and synergy between party members. Each hero has a talent tree allowing for customization within their archetype. The structure is designed like a table, and players can freely allocate points wherever they like as long as they have the points to spend. One of the best parts is that respecing is completely free, at least in the beta it was, so players are encouraged to experiment. You can adapt your build to fit gear drops or try new team compositions without being punished for changing things up. There's already a lot of potential for creative party setups. Mako, for instance, plays very differently from Helena. Having a sustained healer like Sylvie instead of a burst healer changes your entire group rhythm. These subtle differences make communication and strategy even more important, especially as you push into harder dungeon tiers. The possibilities for future heroes are also exciting. Imagine a pet-based character whose summoned companion serves as an off-tank, much like the Warlock class or World of Warcraft, or a healer who creates zones of healing rather than with single-target spells. There's so much room for experimentation, and Chief Rebel seems aware of that potential. Even in its current state, the hero lineup feels diverse enough to appeal to a wide range of players, and as more heroes get added, that variety should only increase. Overall, Fellowship feels like a deliberate attempt to carve out its own space by focusing purely on the best parts of MMO dungeon running, cooperative combat, progression, synergy, and challenge. At the same time, it trims away the excess grind and downtime that many MMOs feature and can be a real chore for some players that don't have the same amount of time they once had. By giving players access to pre-designed heroes, supposedly endlessly scaling dungeons, and flexible difficulty systems, Fellowship sets itself as a streamlined yet deep cooperative experience. It lets you hop in for a quick run after work, but still offers enough depth and progression for dedicated players to sink hundreds of hours. Seasonal updates, dungeon modifiers, new features, and rewards promise to keep runs fresh and exciting, so players should never feel like they outgrow the game. While the environment would lead to elitism and gatekeeping in some scenarios, we hope that Fellowship can rekindle that sense of camaraderie and teamwork that older MMO players remember fondly, but in a more approachable, time-friendly manner. The structure even leaves room for esports-style events such as dungeon races, time trials, and world-first competitions, which could be really fun for the community if these are implemented in the future. As we mentioned in our first impressions video, Fellowship seems to be trying to capture the feeling of old-school MMO raiding, the excitement of a coordinated run, the thrill of pulling off a perfect boss kill without requiring weeks of prep. If Chief Rebel can deliver on their vision, Fellowship might not just be another dungeon crawler, it could define its own new space entirely. So that wraps up our video on Fellowship, which goes into early access on Steam tomorrow, so we'll know very soon what people think of this game. But I want to know what you think of it so far. Are you excited for Fellowship? Are you going to give it a try? Do you like the concept of MMO dungeon-style cooperative gameplay without all the grind and leveling in between with each expansion? I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys like the hero system, or do you prefer character creation? I know this has been a big thing that a lot of people have been talking about with this game, so let me know about that. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Before we sign off on the video, though, as promised, a new boss reveal with voiceover from Chief Rebel Community Director Hamish Bode.
Hi everyone, Hamish here, Community Director for Fellowship. I'm really excited that we get to show off an exclusive first look at what's probably my personal favorite of all the bosses we have in our game. And as a bit of an added bonus, we're watching this from the perspective of our new hero Ilarion as well. We're going to try and show you some of the mechanics, both how they work and sometimes don't, so you can start to think about how you might want to tackle this for yourselves in Fellowship after October 16th. Enjoy!
Twilight shields me! twilight shrouds me.
Shadows hunger! Shadows shield me. Earth endures as winds enact vengeance.
Butterflies! They're counting on us!
Gaze upon eternity. Gaze upon the void between stars.